When you were putting together this program, what were you thinking? Why these pieces? Did you have like a punainen lanka, like a red line going through it?
I was thinking the whole concept, like German dances and Stravinsky all together, they fit together, and it's so komisch, this Petrushka music, so it gives a lot of space to do your own variations or how you want to form the music, and you don't have to think about rules or how it's done. The theme basically is the dance, rhythm of the dance. It can be minimalist, it can be wild and so on. So ballet, that's the theme of the concert.
When you have to conduct music that has a groove, is it tricky to build a groove in an orchestra that doesn't naturally have it?
It is, because half of the orchestra naturally have it and half doesn't.
What do you do?
Then you try to show how the waist should bounce, so that they feel. That's why I think every musician should have been playing rhythm-based groove music, to play in the band, in the pubs, whatever. That helps the attitude of understanding the groove.
It's tricky also, like with a string instrument, because we are sort of often taught to, you know, the notes start a little bit like that. Exactly. But if you need to be percussive, then your sort of technique gets into the way.
As I always told to the musicians, that the notes are only reference. You don't need to expect them so carefully. It's better you add your own spicy. Little improvisation, as Neemejärvi says, it's always good.
Yeah, totally. Sometimes it's difficult to know how much and in what situation, but I do feel what you're saying. We were doing this concert with somebody who takes care of the selling of urtext scores in Helsinki, and we ended up in this conversation about how much improvisation and what are the limits of interpretation. When are you still playing the piece but putting your own imagination of it on it, and when are you actually starting to change
the composition?
Yeah. When you play something like Bach or Mozart or Beethoven, you grow up sort of being a little bit afraid of it. But when you play music from the same time by similar composers of less fame, you feel like, oh my God, I can do whatever I want. But then there's this kind of strange, like a little bit of a prison when you've grown up to be afraid of Beethoven. It's kind of funny. It takes some years to get over it, but it's fortunately possible. For example, with the Stravinsky, I wish I could, but I can't go into the rehearsal and the concert without really practicing it before. It's like too complicated.
Of course, of course.
And then you can't, when you're practicing, you sometimes you kind of like accidentally put some ideas down, and it's not possible anymore in the concert to completely go free.
Exactly.
And it's a little bit frustrating. But I think we'll do all we can. I'll try to learn it in such a way that it doesn't become like a kind of prison. We should be fine.
Yeah, but it's a tricky for the orchestra in a way, especially the last movement.
I sometimes thought it would be interesting to try to change the sitting order, because there's so many places where you play with a woodwind instrument or a couple or with a trumpet where the distance actually becomes
it's a problem. Yeah.
Maybe we could have them in a, I don't know.
Yeah. No, but in Philharmonia they are surprisingly in time always.
Yeah, that is true. If it will work somewhere, it will work there.
Yeah, exactly.
Philharmonia they're incredibly
alert. They don't sleep on the bar line. They are always there. They can sense how the rhythm goes, and they don't think it's in a blocks. They think it. They know their part, so they have time to listen and watch.
Yeah, no, there's a story that he wrote the first chord of the piece that is sort of in the beginning of every movement, that he wrote it in a bar on a napkin and asked Dushkin, the soloist, if this is going to be okay. And Dushkin was like, no, it's not gonna, because it looks so crazy on the page.
Yeah.
And then he went home later, Dushkin, and tried it, and it's actually not that bad. It's just a little bit of a stretch. And so he called Stravinsky and said, it's fine. And Stravinsky had been disappointed in between, but it was fine. But it's good because it's not a chord that you would normally play, but it's perfectly fine. It's not crazy. It just sounds like there's a string missing on the violin.
What kind of stretch it is actually?
It's so you go from so an A and an E. I tried. I thought it would be great to play. It's like, but the harmonic isn't strong enough for the open.
Right.
It's fun.
Yeah. No, but it's a great chord.
Yeah, very striking.
Yeah.
Sometimes it feels like if you play it like the soloist, especially maybe in the first and last movement, you have to become so many different instruments. Like you have to.
Yeah, you blend like with the woodwinds. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That you
Sometimes
can hear.
You're a trumpetist. And
yeah, exactly.
You need to have percussion timing and stuff like that.
Exactly. The violin blends to the orchestra as well. Yeah, absolutely. That's what I thought always.
And there was something by Stravinsky about it as well, that he didn't put a cadenza in it because he was just interested in combining the violin with stuff. He didn't want to have a big sort of alone moment.
What about this one aria? Is it something to do with Bach?
The second one?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
It sounds more like Spanish baroque or folk or something. But it has this this kind of machineries that do sound a little bit.
Yeah.
It's super beautiful. In the first and last movement, it feels like everything is built up of like tavuja, like syllables. And it's also almost like a person who keeps repeating the like everything has to happen. And in the last moment, I know, but it's a very sort of unviolinistic in a way, but it's really fun.
Yeah.
Violinists would mostly, I think, like it to be sort of again, but he doesn't go there. Oh, it's fun. I had this, like about Ligeti concerto, I had this feeling that it kind of doesn't always work so well in a big concert hall, that you should have it in a small round room for 200 people maximum, and then have the ensemble in a circle in the middle.
Concerto?
Yeah, concerto.
Yeah.
And maybe with the Stravinsky concerto, it's a little bit the same. That it should feel like it's a band piece rather than like a symphony orchestra
You were
piece.
telling about to arrange it. That was interesting.
I think it's not going to be possible because of publishing rights, at least not yet. But but to make an arrangement of Stravinsky concerto where it would be played by like a sort of like a circus orchestra or like a big street band. So we would have washboards and banjos and accordions and harmoniums and stuff. Because so much of the music, especially first and last movement, feel like it should be this sort of.
Yeah.
So speaking about this post-concert I think it would be great if people would come to like this whole thing with the idea of spending the whole night at Royal Festival Hall, like not just come for the symphony concert or for the post-concert thing, but like take the whole. You haven't worked with Jay Jagmer before?
No.
He's crazy good, and he always makes his own music for his own shows. So he's an electronic music programmer, as well as I think he's the only juggling professor on the planet. He said that like he has one tempo, is gravity. When you can think about it like that, it makes his job more simple. Because when each throw has a number of beats, it's like for friends of rhythm-based music, what he does is it's super cool. And he has some really beautiful like electronic instruments, some built for him. And he has this thing where our camera is filming he's juggling and transforming the juggling patterns into music. It'll be fun. I hope everyone stays. Or at least somebody.